Hello and welcome to the Muster Report. It's good to be with you today. It's our opportunity to connect with you, to check in, to show accountability, to let you know that we're here, we're alive. The term muster comes from the military, meaning to gather together, to lay eyes on everybody, to hold everybody accountable, to make sure that we're all okay, to pass on information, usually after an emergency drill, but it doesn't have to be an emergency. We don't have an emergency here today. We just want to connect with you and let you know that we're alive and well, to let you know what's going on in the sheriff's office. We've got a segment for you today dealing with the detention center, and I want to give credit to Ryan, who came up with the muster report. We're going to be connecting with you on a very consistent basis to let you know what's happening, what we need you to do, how you can get involved, how you can be informed about what's going on in the sheriff's office. And I have a special guest with me today. We've got Captain Walter Ashley, who is going to join us to talk about the detention center. Captain Ashley, if you'll just tell them who you are and what you do, man.
I am Captain Walter Ashley. I am the jail commander in charge of the jail operations. Take care of the inmates in there, the deputies, and make sure everybody is taken good care of.
Now, you spent 30 plus years with the Richmond County Sheriff's Office, is that right?
Correct. I spent 38 and a half years with them, and then I've been here ever since for another 2 years. So.
Wow. How long you plan on working?
At least as long as you're around, and possibly up to 70.
Wow, man. Well, we're glad to have you. Welcome to the Muster Report. It's great. We want to start off with something funny. Let's see. We'll see if you think it's funny. So let's get started, man.
Yes.
Let's see here.
Absolutely.
Put on my glasses. Why did the librarian sue the police department? Any idea?
Why she do that?
Because she was overbooked. All right. Well, it was funny. All right. Stop with all the corny jokes, man, before we call the crops. Come on, you got to laugh about that.
I got it.
All right. One more. You know, you heard the deputies are out looking for a suspect who stole a cement truck, and they've got a few leads, but nothing concrete.
Okay. All right, Dan.
I'm trying. Give me a break. All right.
That was a good one, Dan.
Maybe y'all think it's funny. I tried. It was better than the blonde joke they gave us earlier. So let's jump right into it, man. We're gonna just have an open discussion, really, about the conditions in the jail, what goes on in a detention center. First of all, sometimes we call it the jail, sometimes we call it the detention center. Is there a difference, or are they
It's just semantics. It's just even when you're going to school, they go to a jail school, detention center, because they're being detained. There is not a clear-cut separation of the two.
Yeah. Detention typically sounds a little better. I mean, when I came in the office 8 years ago or so, we changed it to detention center because it is a holding facility. Many of the folks in there have not been convicted. They're presumed innocent until proven guilty, and so they're being detained. Detention versus jail, you might think more punishment. Is that right?
That's correct. I mean, majority is. There's probably right this moment today, maybe 5 inmates that have been sentenced already. The rest of them are all still considered innocent. They have not had their day in court or their chance to present their side.
Yeah. So, typically in a detention center, a sheriff understands that the detention center is probably his or her biggest liability. And we usually want to ensure that we've got somebody very responsible running the detention center. That's where you can get into a lot of trouble with processes and policies and safety of inmates, safety of personnel. It's difficult to recruit and hire and train and retain folks to work in those facilities. Tell us what a typical day in the detention center is like.
Well, the thing first for everybody needs to think about and remember, a jail or detention center is like a small city. We control all aspects of it, everything that any inmates get from their bedding, their sleeping material, their food is all controlled and ran by us, and it's 24 hours a day. They never get a break. The jail never closes. A typical day for an inmate inside the jail, though, they'll go to bed. We do lights out at 11 o'clock. We have them get back up at 6:30. And then they get up, they make the rooms just like they do if they's at home. They have to have their beds made, rooms made up, and then we allow them out. Then they start their day of eating. They eat 3 times a day. They have access to showers. We now have tablets that give them constant ability to have visitations with family members or call people when they wish to. They have games. They play games in there with each other. The tablets has programs on them, educational programs, things they can work toward for the future and all.
So many people in the community have these myths about folks in the detention center or what they should and shouldn't have. And one that I hear as sheriff quite often is, why do they have to have cable television?
Well, it's first of all, it's a lot of the things that an inmate get is for the officers' benefits. It's already a very stressful place for the officers, the security levels and everything, have them on edge. And the goal is really to have the inmates stay calm. The more they have that we can give them also allows us, when they decide to start showing out or causing a problem, that we can take from them. And it's a tool we use for our officers' safety and for the inmates.
Yeah, it's almost like disciplining your children at home. You have to have things that they enjoy, things that you can take away when they misbehave. And so it's a control mechanism to keep safe other inmates as well as employees.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And so I hear you said that we get 3 meals a day. What does that look like? Is it hot, cold, hot, 2 hots and a cold? Why can't we just feed bologna sandwiches? We have people out there that think that they shouldn't have anything more than that.
Well, it's just like anybody on the streets. We have to have a diet. You have basic human needs. They have to make sure they're getting a well-balanced meals. We do 2 hot meals a day, and we do have 1 cold meal. And that rotates. Every other day, we'll have a sandwich at lunch, a couple of sandwiches at lunch, and then they'll have a couple of sandwiches at dinner. But the rest of the meals are cooked by civilian cooks who are trained. They're chef trained. They cook very good meals, the same meals the inmates eat, the officers eat. We give it all access to both because we have to feed our officers because they're there 12 and a half hours a day without being able to leave.
Can't leave, yeah. So they're in there as well. We don't want our employees coming to work feeling like they're in jail.
Right.
Is that right? Or detention, being detained. So right. we have facilities. Talk about the cleanliness of the facility. Are our inmates engaged? Are they helping to keep the facilities clean and proper?
Yes, inmates are responsible for cleaning their own cells. We do allow them access to quite a bit of commissary, which is foods. They can get all the commissary drinks and other items. And so they do have a tendency to get a lot of stuff in there. Excuse me. We require them to get their own trash up. They do a good job on that. They help clean up all of the outside areas. We do have some cleanliness issues in areas such as the bathroom and stuff, but that is strictly only because of the age of the building. We have issues we're having to deal with, but on a building this old, this many people, it's in actually pretty decent shape as far as because of the inmates' help and working in there.
So let's talk about some of the challenges that we face in the detention center. Every sheriff has a problem with mental health issues around the state and around the country. We're all concerned about many of the folks who are in our facilities probably do not need to be there, don't deserve to be there, but they have mental health challenges that have presented themselves and caused them to be in jail. So let's talk a little bit about mental health, and then we'll get into some of the structural issues we have with our 40-year-old facility.
Well, the biggest issue with mental health is in the past, back when I started working and everything else in the 80s, we had facilities for mental health people. If somebody was mental health, we dealt with them on the street. We had to lock them up. We was able to take them to Georgia Regional or somewhere such as that. We no longer have that capability. It's no longer around. So now with our mental health citizens, they are forced to go to jail if they have an issue. We do have a mental health counselor that they see once a week inside of a facility. We try and make efforts to train our officers as best we can, but a jail is not a mental health facility. We don't have the capabilities for any type of long-term stuff, and yet we're forced to try to do that and try to work with those situations.
Yeah. And so getting into some of the challenges that we face in our 40-year-old detention facility, as we have been educating the public, the building belongs to the county government, to the county commission. The sheriff is simply a tenant. I'm renting the building from the commission, from the county government. And so the facilities are just outdated. And the 14 counties that surround Burke County, they all have newer facilities. Jenkins, Jefferson, Emmanuel, Washington, Bullock. You go over to South Carolina, you've got a number of Aiken County, Barnwell County, getting back to Georgia, Lincoln County, Columbia County, Richmond County. All of those places have newer facilities, and so our facility is grossly outdated, and we still have the old Andy Griffith bars, and so inmates are still able to reach out and touch one another. They're able to reach out and touch our employees. They're able to assault our employees, and the community knows at this point that we've shed some light on this in the last few weeks. We've had 3 officer assaults where an inmate threw feces on an officer and urine on 2 different officers, and some of those folks left our employ as a result. And so hiring and retention is tough when you are facing those kinds of challenges. These men and women make less than $20 an hour, and I submit that $20 an hour wouldn't be enough to be assaulted in that way. So those are some of the challenges that we're facing. But let's speak to cases where there are multiple defendants, gang activity, persons charged with gang charges or drug charges. We can't house those folks together because of our antiquated detention facilities. We can't isolate those folks many times. Sometimes if there's a case with 5 defendants, we've got to send some out to other facilities, which cost us. And so can you talk from that perspective on some of the challenges that we face?
It's a big challenge because of the need to separate individuals. A good, perfect example is we have 2 young men right now inside of our facility who had to be separated from the rest of the jail population. And with the design of this jail, the only place we have at this point to put them is in our medical section. Our medical section only has 2 rooms, and but it has got the proper doors. We got 1 cell block, and those 2 doors, we maybe have 11, 12 built rooms in the whole place that actually have a secure door that doesn't have the bars. And
difficult to have lockdown when somebody misbehaves. It's hard to lock them down because you're very limited with your facility.
Well, you can't. We've had to separate people in different blocks, but when you have bars everywhere, there is no way to stop information from being traveled, no way to stop stuff to being passed.
Passing contraband.
They throw it through the contraband, through the bars. They pass things over. They pass messages. There is just no safety and security when it comes to that method, and that's why all the other jails have been changed.
All right.
Because of that.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break, and on the other side of the break, we'll pick up and continue a little bit. Y'all stay with us. Welcome to the Muster Report. We're glad to be with you today. Come back with us, and we'll give you a little more. Be right back.
Hey, it's Lieutenant Lexi Johnson with the Burke County Sheriff's Office, and we are out here at Pine-Tucky Gun Club. We just finished our first Citizens Firearms course of 2026. It was a fun class, and even better, the weather was great. We look forward to doing this class as many times as Pine-Tucky can host us because we look forward to teaching the citizens of Burke County how to use their weapon. Before coming down to the range, in the classroom, we're able to go over basic fundamentals of firearms. So that way we can go ahead and talk about grip and stance, unloading, loading. Any questions that they may have, we can handle in the classroom before coming down here to actually fire the weapon. When the deputies get on the line with the shooter, it's to assist them and make them familiar with their weapon. The purpose of this class is to teach you how to use a weapon that you own. If the time ever came where you had to use this, we want you to be able to feel confident and comfortable in using this weapon. That is what the whole class is about. Anytime I can be a part of this class is special to me, especially if we have female shooters or even someone in the vulnerable population. We want them to be able to protect themselves and their families. We will be hosting the next Citizens Firearms course very soon, so please stay tuned to our social media for more information.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Muster Report. Thank you for rejoining us. The Muster Report, a chance for us to come together, make sure we're all alive, lay eyes on one another, talk about what's going on, get informed, and we're here to let you know what's happening in the Burke County Sheriff's Office. I'm your sheriff, Sheriff Alfonso Williams, and I have a special guest with me today, Captain Walter Ashley. We're here talking about the detention center. That is, we have decided to call it a detention center versus a jail. Those folks are there being detained. The majority of them are there because they are awaiting trial. They're presumed innocent until proven guilty. And Captain, we left off talking about just the very humane way that we treat our inmates. We understand that they are not guilty, and if they were found guilty, we would still, many of them are not, but if they were, we'd still be humane and treat them well. We're good to them. We enforce rules upon them. We engage them in helping to keep the place clean and orderly, and we have to incentivize them just as we have to do with our children at home. We've answered some of those myths about why can't we feed them bologna sandwiches every day, or why do they have to have color television or cable TV? And we do it because we have to have order, and we have to ensure the safety of our employees and inmates alike. And so it all works together. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And going on that point, the goal is to cut down the recidivist rate. So by the way we treat these inmates in the facilities, and even when they get sentenced, hopefully they'll want to live that way when they get out. It's part of society.
Sure. All right. Well, we want to thank Lieutenant Lexi Johnson for that community call. A call to the community to get you involved, to let you know how you can jump in and help us out and be a part of the sheriff's office and the programs that we put on. We put on nearly 150 programs in our community every year. And Lieutenant Johnson and her partner, Chastity, are very instrumental in keeping this community engaged. We do all sorts of things. So thank you, Lexi, for that community call. Captain, let's just continue, man. It's open conversation. We can talk about most anything we want, but let's really just kind of keep going with the culture of the detention center and what happens when we bring inmates into the detention facility. We have to do our best to put them in a population that is relative to the charges, and we try to ensure that their uniform is a particular color. What does all that mean?
Well, we have first of all, it's a quick way for the officers to identify violent, nonviolent inmates, misdemeanor inmates. It's the very nature of the charge. But with a facility like ours, particularly with a design, if our facility was like a more standard jail where you had all the rooms had doors that you was able to separate and all your walls were solid, it would be easier to separate inmates based on cases and everything else. And we are almost impossible without sending inmates out to other facilities, which we've had to do that. If we got somebody right now, we'd have to put them on protective custody, which means we'd have to put them in one of our few rooms that actually has doors that work, and they'd only be allowed to come out certain times a day to protect them from other inmates and stuff. So we just don't have that capability.
In other words, the detention center is not like a hotel where you want to be full every night. We cannot do that. So we can house 128 persons in our detention facility without putting anybody on the floor. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, but we don't want to have 128. What's our ADP today?
Right now, today, it's 100. We try to maintain that. We have had it lower at times, but with costs and budget issues, we've had to bring some inmates back that we've had housed out and stuff.
So when the community hears that we have room for 128 persons and we only have 100 today, they think, oh, they have availability for 28 people, so they should not be housing out folks at other facilities and having to pay $65 a day to do that. But it's essentially necessary because we don't know what's going to happen. If you get a patient in with some special medical issue, we may have to provide special housing for that person, or if there's a person on suicide watch, or a mental health person, or a person who has been arrested for misdemeanor theft, we can't put them in with a violent offender. So those are some of the intricacies that we have to deal with in a detention facility. Is that right?
That's it. That's correct. Probably run into, like with misdemeanors is a perfect example. With our facility, the way it's designed, We can't separate them by dorms or by blocks, which would be the normal standard to do. We just have to make sure that if inmates are in a dorm together, that they're not sharing the same room. And there is no other way with this type of layout of facility to separate them any other way. We just don't have the capabilities because of the layout and design to separate them any better. But we do make every effort to watch charges and everything.
I want the public to know we have people that have been in our jail for 4 years.
Correct.
5 years awaiting trial.
Yes.
And so this, although we are a temporary detention facility, some of these folks are here for a very long time. And I think the public would be shocked to know that we have people that have been here that long.
We even had a mental health patient not too long ago that was here over a year just awaiting a bed. They'd already been sentenced to a bed in a facility outside of this area, and it's just a waiting period. People who right now are on probation waiting to go to a bed in basically like a halfway house, but we have to wait on beds. It's just, and so those numbers are built up.
So keeping with some of the challenges that we have folks who are awaiting a bed in the state because they have been convicted or pled guilty or have been sentenced by a judge, but they're waiting for the state to come and pick them up. We have to house those folks.
Correct.
It costs us about $65 per day to house an inmate. But when a person has been convicted by the state is paying us, what, $25 a day?
Correct. But we don't get that until after they leave the facility. So we're still stuck with every penny of the cost until they leave. Yeah. And then the state will send us back some money.
And now we have agreements with some surrounding counties, some local sheriffs that have been very good to us: Jenkins County, Jefferson County, Emmanuel County, Scriven County. Those sheriffs have been really good to us. And so sometimes we're able to trade one inmate for another. If they're having a problem with somebody, they'll send them to us, and vice versa. And there may be no cost, but there are other times when there is a cost. It becomes necessary to house those folks out because the law says that as sheriff, I have a constitutional duty and responsibility to ensure the safety of those inmates. And if I cannot adequately house them in our facility, then I've got to house them at a facility where they will be safe. And so that's just a point that the community needs to understand as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have programs in our detention facility that our inmates can take advantage of. And you mentioned earlier that we have tablets that have educational programs on them. So we have the full GED program on our tablets, and the inmates have access to that. Do we have a tablet for every inmate?
We do. It's a recent thing we've been able to finally get set up. Every inmate has their own tablet assigned to them, which allows them now to have visitation through the tablets. They can have phone calls and all the educational stuff. Any of the entertainment is all on there now.
Yeah. And so after they achieve so many points from the educational component, and we also have things like anger management and conflict resolution and counseling all via that tablet. But after they get so many educational points, they can earn certain points to play games and that sort of thing as well.
Phone calls, it gives them money breaks. And like with the GED program, once they complete all the classes on there, then we have Lieutenant Young here I'll contact, and he'll set up for them to actually get their testing to hopefully leave here with their GED. Yeah.
And the purpose of giving them opportunities to earn educational points and skills points or classes is so that we can avoid recidivism, and we can help them get reintegrated into society and into the community, because we're going to have to live with these folks when they get out. And so we want to give them access to things like education and skills. But talk about the garden out back. We have reserved a spot to have a garden, and inmates are able to go out and plant their own vegetables that eventually end up in our kitchen being served.
It's working toward, that works toward also helping with the budget, some on food, and it gives the inmates a chance to see something else and do something different. It's all part of what most people don't realize, I don't think, is that this facility is probably 95% Burke County residents are in this jail. It's Burke County residents. People who live here are going to live here when they're leaving their families.
Yeah. Well, just a few seconds left. The whole part of the whole business of doing this is to make sure that our inmates are safe, to make sure our employees are safe. We're able to recruit, hire, train, and retain the best qualified folks to keep this county safe. And you're doing a great job at it. So thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate all that you do, and thank you.
Yes, sir.
We're going to go to break. Be back after just a few minutes, and we'll wrap up the muster report. Thank you. Stay with us.
My name is Sergeant Martrell Williams, and I'm an investigator with the Burke County Sheriff's Office. So just a few weeks ago, we had a victim come in who had spent upwards of $15,000 for something that he felt was valuable, but had not received his item. In return, the victim wanted to request a refund. So at that time, I took it upon myself to reach out to the company on behalf of this individual in regards to trying to figure out what was going on with his monies, trying to get a refund. It was important to me to call them as a representative on behalf of the citizen of Burke County so that we could put pressure on them, because sometimes as an elderly person, people feel like you don't have anyone advocating for you. So I felt that it was necessary. The Special Victims Unit believe in helping people, helping our community, and helping the citizens of Burke County. We believe that not only are we willing to help, but that we're equipped to help you with your needs.
All right, welcome back to the Muster Report. Thanks for rejoining us. We're glad to have you today. We're checking in with each other. We're making sure we're all alive. We're all informed. We all know what's going on. We get to lay eyes on one another. In the police business, military business, we call it muster, because we get to come together, make sure everybody's okay, everybody's informed. Sometimes it's after an emergency. It doesn't always have to be. The Muster Report. Thank you for being here. I want to give a special shout out to our executive producers, Ryan Craftifer and R.S. Brown. Thank you for putting this podcast together so that we can come to you on a bi-weekly basis to let you know what's going on. We enjoyed our special guest today, Captain Walter Ashley, who told us all about the jail conditions, the detention center, as we call it, what's happening in there, how do inmates come in. We average about 100 per day, and there oftentimes when we've got to house some folks out, we've got to ensure the safety of our employees and inmates alike. There's a lot going on in there. Every sheriff around this state and around the country is concerned about mental health folks in our detention facilities. We just don't have adequate facilities around the state to house these folks and around the country, so they end up in our jails and our detention centers. We need your help. Georgia has done a great job very recently. The governor has recently signed a bill and appropriated $400+ million to open a facility, a mental health facility that should relieve some of the overcrowding. But with 159 counties in the state of Georgia, I just don't know that it's going to be enough to give us any immediate relief. We've got a number of challenges in our detention facility. As I said to you earlier, in the 14 counties surrounding Burke County, Burke County has the oldest and most inadequate detention facility around. We have bars, old Andy Griffith bars, which means inmates can still touch each other. They can still touch deputies. We've had a number of assaults in the past several weeks. We have mold issues. We have leaky facilities that have created some problems. We have rust and mildew and just vents that we can't clean because of the design of the facility. It's as clean as we can get it. It's much cleaner than what we inherited 8 years ago, but we need your help. We need you to reach out to your commissioners. We need you to call them. We need you to tell them that Burke County, not Sheriff Alfonso Williams, but Burke County needs new, adequate, updated facilities. We've got to have them. You heard Captain Ashley say earlier that the majority of the folks in the Burke County Detention Center are Burke County residents. They deserve better. They're innocent until proven guilty. It's your family members, it's your friends, it's your coworkers, it's your neighbors. We need you to get on the phone, to call your commissioners, to tell them that we're doing a good job. We're giving as much as we can with what we have. I'm simply the tenant. They are the landlords. They own the building. They being the county commissioners. Tell them to fix the facility, to give us the funding that we need to keep our employees and inmates alike safe. Thank you so much for joining the Muster Report. Join us in a couple of weeks with segment 2. Thank you for your attention. Pass on the video, share on our social media, share on your social media. Thank you so much. Stay safe, be well, and remember, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve.